Well, everyone, I hope you liked watching Avoided because we got them back in. It's going to be Avoided against Revival in the next round of the lower bracket. Revival, knocked out originally by Scion Esports, did also, on their way through here, manage to knock down Nocturnal. So, by the transitive property, in theory, Revival may be the better team here than Avoided, but Avoided looking pretty strong here as they make their run continuing through the lower bracket. I'm Bacon Gefill. With me still is Thibbledork. Thibbledork, what have we got to look forward to here?
Man, this is going to be an interesting one for sure. Not that the last one wasn't, because we just had that discussion about chaos and more chaos and extra chaos on top of all that chaos. Revival, though, is I would hazard to say a slightly more polished team than Nocturnal. Their roster certainly has some bigger names on it, though that is not necessarily an indicator of skill.
Oh,
Names like Wub really evoke, like, okay, this is a team that has their stuff together. But at the same time, they're not unflappable. These guys are not undefeated in this tournament, let alone in contenders or anything like that. They have shown themselves to be a team that can be beaten. But at the same time, they're going to put up a fight. I think this one could go the distance because Avoided are very good in their system, but will they be forced to adapt, or will they be countered enough that Revival can pull out the win?
it's kind of unfortunate for Revival because they were quite a strong force in NA contenders for a little while there, and with a lot of star power on their roster as well. I believe Revival initially founded on the back of a bunch of Overwatch League players who were forced to find a new home down in contenders, and it's since kind of morphed and evolved to be its own thing away from that initial influence.
I will give you an extra Overwatch history lesson because I am uniquely equipped to do so here.
I
Revival,
what team they were from for the most part, and I didn't want to bring it up because I know what team you work for, Thibble.
it's a rough spot, but it was the ashes of Mayhem Academy that made Revival. Our president, actually, John Crackham, bought them all computers that they could take with them when they left the team to continue playing. So when they left Mayhem Academy, or when Mayhem Academy dissolved, technically, they moved out of LA, where we were all based, and John gave them each their computers and said, "This is so you guys can keep playing." And they moved into a team house together. That iteration of the roster has since fallen apart because it's contenders, and that's how it goes.
It's contenders, yeah.
But at its core, Revival is that is the history, I suppose, of Revival. This
Right.
version now, though, is very interesting. I like. I would say the strongest parts. I mean, it's tough to say. I don't want to shout anyone out too specifically and make other people feel
Oh,
bad.
oh,
But
okay,
Aspen
I'll
looks
take
good.
that from you. I'll take that from
Go
you. 'Cause
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, in the meta we've got at the minute, Wub here is an absolute monster on the Genji.
That's a very good point.
Like
That's a
and
very good point.
I talked over you saying Aspen, and I absolutely don't want to talk down Aspen, but like in the meta we've got, Wub's kind of the guy to watch here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a Genji meta, you follow the Genji, right? That's not rocket science by any stretch. I think Wub is easily the person with the most history and the meta favoring him out of any of these six. But keep an eye on this whole team because they have a lot of experience in contenders, and together, I think they're starting to get their groove.
Hmm. They are, of course, also making their run through Open Division at the minute, having not quite made it into trials in the previous contenders trial season. But Fib, looks like we are coming through onto our first map. It's going to be Lijiang to start things out and Avoided. They've already warmed up on this map once today. We saw Nocturnal make them kind of sweat for this one, so we know that they can be flapped on this one, but we know also that they have the potential to grind this one out. And starting on Night Market, it's a good Pharaoh map. It's Yezen's time to shine.
Yeah, I mean, they had a really strong showing on Night Market to win that first map against Nocturnal. So there's nothing to say they couldn't pull out similar strategies here. Of course, contract, yada, yada, yada. We're not going to talk about the roster for Revival, excuse me. Avoided, this is 100% what I expect. At this point, you should too. I'm liking this. I think it'll work for them here. But we'll have to see how much Revival can really make them sweat.
I kind of expecting this to be what we're going to see from Revival with the swap from Wub onto the Genji once the TP is down. Of course, no Lucio in the offing right now for them to make that speed boost, so they're just using that. Oh, Okay, here's a wrinkle. It's going to be Wub on the Echo rather than the Genji.
Interesting. Not the first time we've seen that from him in this meta, or previous metas since Echo has come about. I think they're just hoping for a little extra air control to counter Yezna.
Yeah, it's interesting the sort of heroes that like one type of player gravitates to. So the Genji and the Echo and probably the Doomfist all very much in Wub's wheelhouse here. But Aspire's going to get the opening pick of this match. It's going to be Nolan taken out, no res available, and Yezen desperately hunting for some safety. Not going to find it. Aquamarine and Hanpei both down. Tractor Kid taken out. Yezen's going to get one on the back end of that, but too little too late. At the very least, he's come out with that with a barrage, though. That's incredibly quick.
I mean, just tons of poke damage coming out from Yezna. Not a ton of kills, though. I think the key parts of that were the zoning and sheer damage provided by Aspire's Ashe, and the protection and just extra shielding coming out from Aspen, whose Brigitte is frankly very, very good. So those are two players to watch to really counter out what Avoided is trying to run. That said, Yezna coming in with a barrage. He's the kind of guy who always gets a kill, but not if two of his team members go down first.
Stylish. That was the sticky bombs came out, and the amplification matrix just solidified around them, coming through, doing the damage and getting the picks. Yezen's still just hopping around in the back with Nolan trailing after him. No value there, really, because the team fight was happening as a 4v6 right up there at the front. Wub's going to get run down if he's not careful. Huge amount of damage into Tractor Kid. But they lose Hanpei already, and this is looking so rough for Avoided.
Revival really have their number here. They know that they know what Yezna and Nolan are really trying to do here on this backside. So they're happy to take the 4v6 or the 3v6 of Tractor Kids on the flank and then just clean up just like this. This is 3 fights in a row and we're approaching 70% with 0 resistance coming out from Avoided so far.
It's an unfortunate flux there from Salty. Didn't catch anything. Kind of a zoning flux, but nobody even really there to worry about the zone. We have ults now coming up online for Avoided, but they're kind of matched here by Revival as well. No direct counters, but certainly a lot of ability to put down pressure. Nano boost onto Yezen. Has the barrage, has the safety of the Nano to pull it out. Will go down, but now they've got the numbers in their favor. Aquamarine up in the sky, looking to deal with Wub on the Echo, who has used the duplicate, but to not much effect. Aspire is still trying to grind this out. They will have got this to 90-90-0, but the flip is now here for Avoided.
Frankly, an expensive fight from Revival. I would have liked to have seen them hold on to a couple more ults. Aspire there was thinking about switching onto the Tracer, but then went back to the Ashe. The Bob, though, did let them get to 99%, so that one I would have taken. But I didn't see the duplicate do much. Nice coach gun from Aspire there.
Jeez.
Oh, man. It's Aspire and Wub are DPS that can match Aquamarine and Yezna's individual, like, maximization of the kit. They're getting the juice out, you know? And now the psychological warfare comes out. Let's see if it flaps Revival.
Ooh, a little bit too quick there for the immortality field, and Aspen goes down. Even trades, though, as Hanpei's going to go down here as well. Yezna, a lot of control of both of these chokes. No real way to contest him until you make your way through to the choke. And then guess what? He's above you. He's got a boost. He's just going to weigh you down with rockets, and you are just grist for his ult charge mill.
That is quite the metaphor. I appreciate that greatly. I think that's as good a fight as you're going to get for Revival without outright winning it. The swap on a Diva I like here, but ultimately it was an ult building fight. You pulled the Riptire out at the very least. If they're tracking well, they'll know that Avoided has a lot to work with. So they're going to try, I think, to mitigate as much effectiveness from the barrage as possible. That's what I think this Diva picked well.
Some wonderful bits of spectating here where you just see Tractor Kid ominously rolling through on the background. And he's managed to come back in, drop the minefield, the spin cycle, knocks a couple into it, and with the rest coming through onto Aquamarine, this is a numbers advantage for Avoided, and it is now last fight territory for both teams here. Aspen's going to prop the rally here and hope that she can grind something out on this one. 2 kills coming through, but a barrage once more with an Nano boost from Yezen. Looking to take us at least to 99-99, but numbers not looking good here for Avoided. Revival get the picks, and it's just Mini-Me trying to grind this out on the point alone. He's going to go down, but it's all the time now for Tractor Kid to get back in the Wrecking Ball and keep this ticking over. There's not been a flip just yet. It's finally come through. Will Power Driver connect with Salty and knock them out of the fight. big blast the focusing beam there, and we get the duplicate onto the Junkrat. Don't know that I've ever seen a duplicated Junkrat in anything approaching professional play. Not finding too much value, a lot of pressure, and 100-99 as Revival take the first submap.
So good on Aspire for the cleanup there, but I'm going to give the shout out to Salty. You might think, Yesna got a barrage kill, so Salty must not have been doing anything right there. But that easily could have been 2 or 3, frankly. And in addition to that, as Yesna disengaged from his barrage, he tried to use his concussive blast to knock a couple people off as he disengaged, and Salty ate that, which was frankly very key because that just let them stabilize on the point and have that 4 to 6 people constantly as Avoided tried to trickle back in, and that ultimately is what won them that round. Now, as we get on to Garden, it's looking like Salty's going to stay on Diva, which I can't fault him for.
No real changes here for Avoided. This is kind of the look we're expecting to see from this entire round. Aspire with a quick dash in. The adaptive shield procced by Tractor Kid just to allow him to get out of that fight. Didn't have quite the impact he might have liked, and Aspire just uncontested, raining in damage here, finds the pick onto Tractor Kid, but also found the trap and found the mine to the face. Aspire down, 1-for-1 trade. Tractor Kid likely to be in that maybe a little bit quicker, but Minimi's going to get run down here as well. Aquamarine over on the bridge, kind of out of the range of any utility here, means we're probably going to see the first flip come through from Revival and a push-up to hold over the bridge.
Revival are really exposing how much Avoided rely on Tractor Kid's disruption to give them openings into fights. Because the moment he comes in, everyone turns on him. It is insane how much peel and how much CC is being put towards Tractor Kid as he falls again. But at the same time, they're not sacrificing any other vulnerabilities to people like Yesna or Minimi, excuse me. So frankly, great on Aspire especially, and Aspen, I would say, for really keeping Tractor Kid in check.
I'm just looking at the ult charge here for Minimi and Tractor Kid, and they're both having a really rough time here trying to make anything work.
Good disengage.
Yeah, good disengage. See the pulse bomb thrown in. And it will find Aquamarine. He had all the space in the world to get out of it. It wasn't a stick. He could have combined out of it, but no, just into it. He'll see the trade, though, as he's going to find Salty, but it's still Aspire in the background, who is just being the biggest nuisance in the world here. You did hear that barrage go off in the background, but it didn't find diddly squat. Yusna and Hampe both down now, and 60% on the point here for Revival.
Yeah, I mean, Aspire, frankly, is running circles here, we see. Yesno went in for something in the backline, I imagine, with that barrage, but it's easy enough for Moopy to turn around and just clean him up. I think the shield and the fortify were probably plenty to really handle that, especially when comboed with, well, not the defense matrix, Salty's on the ball, excuse me. Yesno now, though, gets a pick on the Moopy.
Did see the minefield come out here from Tractor Kid, and 2 picks already on the field. Whoop's gonna go for this Junkrat pick once more. We'll get the pick onto Tractor Kid. Closing in on the Riptire, has it here and ready to go. Off around the side, down through mid, into the face of Nolan. Mini-Me did get res back through into this one, but he's not got the rest of his team around him. He's kind of isolated here, and it's 99-0, and Revival are staring down the barrel of a complete shutout here. They've got the measure of Avoided. We're starting to see a couple of picks come through from Avoided, but it might be too little too late. They've got 3 on the point, but there are now 3 of Revival ready to match them in fairly key ways here. Green finds Wub and Aspire still being such a nuisance here, but with Moopy going down, it's down to Aspire to try and keep this going, and with 150 HP, there's only so much you can do.
Right, and so importantly there for Avoided, their supports managed to stay out of trouble just long enough for the front line to clean things up. Ultimately, one of the key parts of Revival strategy is not only put pressure on the Tractor Kid, but also put pressure onto Nolan and Hampe. Because if they can't do their jobs effectively, a tank like Wrecking Ball melts. And also Nolan has to put so many resources into Yesna. So frankly, it was really good of them to balance out their responsibilities such that Revival could not really get the measure of the front line and take that fight. That said, they have 99%. They've got all the time in the world to build up ults and just kind of come back in and press all their Qs on Avoided. They're going to have to use that great economy from their last match on Lijiang to make this work.
Nice positioning on the minefield, but might have been a little bit too slow. Does force Minimi into the path of Whoop. Yes, and looking for somewhere to stick the barrage, doesn't have the option to make that work. And this is looking like a retake here from Revival as Avoided just crumble under the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, Pulse Bomb is one of the quickest building ultimates in the game, and when you're getting value off of them like that, then you're good to go. Not a ton of value from the minefield in terms of kills, but I think having it zone out in front of the point like that was actually really nice. It forced them to stay back. Oh no, the solo barrage.
Flip comes through, the
That
barrage will take Salty out, but the flip is already there, and that is just all red on the left-hand side of that kill feed. And Revival take it and avoid it. Did not
that
look as competent, as confident, as composed as we've seen in previous maps. Revival might just be the step up that does this for Avoided.
that's kind of what I'm thinking after a map like that. I think, you know, Avoided stuck to their guns there. They had the same sort of strategy. We just saw them play here on Lijiang and play in a very similar way, but you could tell that Revival had either reviewed the tape or just otherwise had their number. You know, I'm sure these guys have scrimmed together, played against one another a time or two here. So it was certainly not easy. I mean, that was not a stomp by any stretch of the imagination, but it was clear that Revival had the leg up. Um, and it's looking like Avoided might be coming through with the substitution real quick. I'm not sure who just yet.
Oh, this is interesting. Lightbringer coming in for Aquamarine. Lightbringer, for those of you that are unfamiliar with this, is of course the Torbjorn specialist for Avoided. So we have seen the
Oh
Torbjorn
my.
been out here for Avoided on Junkertown, but it wasn't being run by a specific Torbjorn specialist. So as we move over onto Rialto, maybe we'll see the difference that a player like Lightbringer can bring to Avoided.
I think what's really key here too, they talked about how in the interview rather, Minimi discussed that Junkertown was really not their map.
Mm.
Yesna's just not too comfortable on it, but now they get to pick this one, so they get to pick Rialto, which I imagine they're at least a little more comfortable on than Junkertown, given that that's their worst map ever. Um, and bringing on their Torbjorn specialist tells me, in Minimi's own words, they're willing to try hard this. And I think they have to, because if they go down on Rialto, even if they get a pick for the third map, it's their tournament life on the line.
I, I don't really know like how the mindset for Avoided falls on this because yes, they want to demonstrate that they've got the skills to take this all the way. They want whatever money comes out of the prize pool at the end for first place, but also they played until about half five EU time yesterday. If they can make this lower bracket run, they're going to be playing until at least half five again today. And it's about 50% EU or EMEA players on Avoided at the minute, and they've got to be tired. I mean, it's not even 1 a.m. here, and I'm tired for these guys.
It's a tremendous mental drain. West Coast, by the way, it's not even 5 p.m. yet. Let's go. But for these guys, it's got to be so grueling to have multiple days of really late night competition. I'm sure they're drinking their G Fuel and using code whatever for 10% off or something. But ultimately, there's only so much the human body can take, and there's only so much your mind can take when you've been competing at this level for this long and this late in the evening. So in addition to just the sheer challenge provided by Revival, they have to look at the challenge provided by their own physiology.
Not a facet that we often get to focus on here because normally we're, if not geo-locked, at least not in such late stages of the game for players in EU or NA. But yeah, it's bound to have a toll here. The one thing I think we probably say in Avoided's defense is Minimi also touched upon in the interview that at the very least, Yezen and Ball are at least 8 hour a day grinders on the ladder. So they're used to spending a lot of time grinding out Overwatch, whether it's quite so late in the night or early in the morning, depending how you want to quantify that, remains to be seen. But you know, they've definitely got a reserve here of energy that I think they can tap into.
And that's been a classic quantity in Overwatch players, especially in Tier 2, though not to say that Overwatch League players aren't capable of that, because that would just be ridiculous. Since the days of the monthly melees, you know, you would hear about players that consistently play 16 hours a day or ridiculous numbers like that. So I don't want to say that these guys are incapable of grinding it out into 5:30 in the morning or anything like that, because they'll do it. They did it yesterday. They'll do it again today. Minimi did not seem too concerned with the idea of having to play late, but at a certain point, your body will just tell you no. And I'm very curious to see if that factors at all into their performance as we get into Rialto.
You know, Fibble, at some point we as an industry have got to discuss this rise and grind and grind and grind mentality, but today, and this point in particular, is not that time. Avoided coming out, unsurprisingly, with a little bit of a variation, but given that we knew Lightbringer was coming in as the Thorb specialist, it's kind of what we expected here. You see the payload starts around this first corner as Revival stop, drop, roll to hold just at the entrance to the square here, where the space so heavily favors them controlling this choke.
Ooh, nice shot from Aspire there. I like the McCree from Wub as they look to clean up this first fight. Some great shots coming out. And I think the double hit scan puts so much pressure on a Pharah Torb duo. You know, like this composition is tailor-made for them. And works well for this first point on Rialto too, as they just clean up here.
Yeah, Aspire has been... I'd love to see the scoped critical hit rating just on this opening minute here, because Aspire has done so much work to crack open that first team fight. And I think we're kind of waiting now for everybody to get some big ultimate online. We've seen how well Yezen can perform with the nano boost and the barrage, but there's a lot of danger here, even to try and get that running. Oh, that's going to do it. Yezen with the damage boosted rocket onto Aspire knocks them out of that one, and suddenly we're in a 5v6. Didn't need the ultimates here. We'll see ultimates coming out though for Revival, but Tractor Kid gets the run through. Just completely knocks Wub and Liar for a loop here, and that is it. The defense has gone.
Hey man, sometimes that's all it takes. I think Yesna opening up with that really long angle shot onto Aspire was so clutch. And of course, a couple boops from Tractor Kid never hurts. So I frankly didn't even see how that happened, but I'm not going to complain if I'm them. The high noon comes out from Love, and he gets the kill on the Tractor Kid.
Seems like I might be a couple of seconds behind you guys. So again, sorry Thibble, I'm just going to have to hold that to you for a minute whilst I try and iron out this difference.
Roger that, roger that. Liar and Aspire, man, knocking things out. And then we are looking at an easy cleanup on a quick fight here. The flashbang just keeping Tractor Kid. He decides he'd rather take a watery death than fall to the Peacekeeper from Web. A Flux and a Rally coming online here for Revival. A Barrage and a Supercharger, though, coming in from Avoided. Could get a little extra damage done. Yesna likes to go for those kamikaze get 1 or 2 kill barrages. And frankly, they might take that in a situation like this. There's a minute and 20 seconds left, and they are so close to capping the point. Aspire, though, oh goodness me, he's been playing his surf maps on CSGO or something, because he survived that somehow. Not much value off of that dynamite. Gives a quick pepper over the Tractor Kid in the background. But Wub is actually the person who gets that finishing kill. Salty moves forward with the Flux.
Okay, looks like I'm back with you guys. Just unfortunately, EU NA technology issues here, keeping me out of it occasionally. But 1 minute left, just under 1 minute left on the clock here for Avoided to keep this hold going. They're going to lose Aspen here. The res brings Lightbringer back into the fight. Not close to having his ultimate yet, but Yezen is still trying to make this work. Can't find an angle around the shield of Salty, and Salty managing to hold on here with just that little bit of help there from the additional shield of Muka. This shield really starting to work out for them. Another Deadeye kill onto Tractor Kid. That's the second of just this one fight, and we'll be able to play right the way back here, controlling a huge amount of space and just relying on his tanks to hold that front line and stop the contest coming through. We're down into the final 12 seconds of the fight here, and Avoided need to find something to throw at this, but Yezen doesn't have the barrage. There's no nano boost available. There's not a lot here for them to make this work. 2 seconds left now, and Aspire in the back will have the Bob ready to go. Lightbringer takes Mookie out of the fight. We're going to see Aspen fall as well. And it's now down to the Bob and the Immortality Field to try and keep Revival in this that little bit longer. But it looks like Avoided have just scraped through enough here to stop this payload from being stopped any further. And we are going to see a point B on Rialto for Avoided.
I mean, it was so back and forth, but really what I think made it work for them is that, yeah, Tractor Kid went down a couple times to a Deadeye from Wub, which normally in a fight dying multiple times to a Deadeye means you're probably losing pretty hard. But with the respawn advantage and the sheer speed of a respawn from Tractor Kid, he was able to always extend the fight long enough for the rest of his team to come back and get some value, and just hold it long enough to really punch things out. Now the minefield lets them move forward again and keeps them back.
But it looks like almost looks like Tractor Kid is kind of struggling to find places to gain momentum and get out of the line of fire, particularly of Aspire. And with the TNT over the top, we're going to see 2 kills coming through there. Salty and Liar able to get 2 on the board there. Lightbringer commits the Molten Core. We're seeing Aspire go here round the side, looking for a flank, gets the TNT onto Hanpei, but in the meantime, whilst that flank was occurring, Yesen's able to get 2 with the barrage, Mini-Me with the cleanup, and we'll see the rest come through onto Hanpei, rolling around and getting past the real danger spot here on Rialto.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough corner, so good on them for getting out so quickly. Frankly, the Molten Cord was not that impressive to me, but hey, it worked. And while almost in reverse, while Aspire's kill was very flashy on the Hanpei, ultimately it wasn't enough to keep the rest of his team from dying.
There are so many structures on the field at the minute. It's a little bit hard to look at the kill feed and figure out what's happening because it's just this thing died, that thing died. Everyone is still in the fight, but they're losing their utility. Look at the tracking there from Wub with the follow-up from Aspire takes Tractor Kid out of the fight yet again. Wub's gonna have yet another high noon. Looking for the click, doesn't need the gun, throws the flashbang, hits the old lady in the face, and stops the payload just before point C.
Goodness, it's such a macabre description, but it's not technically wrong, so I'll let you have it.
Technically correct, kind of correct.
That's right. Yesna and Nolan doing a great job of disengaging and utilizing that high ground flank in between the clothing store and whatever this big building is to the right here that you normally spawn out of on first. Understanding when they can back up and when they need to back up and rotate around to get a little extra value. Not enough to win the fight, but enough to at least keep Revival playing too far forward as Tractor Kid comes in with a very ambitious minefield.
Yeah, very good minefield, and it almost got Aspire, but he was able to prop the coach going to get out of the way of it. He hasn't finds 1 with the barrage, and again, right in like the final seconds of the fight, avoided him just enough to keep this going. And Yesen with the rocket melee combo takes Liar down. They get the team kill, and Yesen is pushing right the way up.
He was checking for some staggered spawns there because that was the spawn room until that second point was captured. Now he's going to have to use the pillars and the opening of this large art gallery, museum thing, to give himself some cover as Wub and Aspire prep both of their ultimates, which are generally very good at killing pharaohs.
I think what this map is revealing to us is that neither of us are particularly hot on our Italian architecture and building types. Regardless, we're still going to see you guys through this. There's going to be the Gravitic Flux. Barrage is going to come out here, which is a weird attempt at a counter for a Gravitic Flux, but seems to have found some value. The kill will come through onto Salty, but they've got a numbers advantage now provided, particularly with the Bob on the field. We'll be able to back out. The safety of the weighty Brigitte, and actually I called that wrong. Avoid did have the numbers here. Revival going to be back in this fairly quickly though. Barrage onto Yesen yet again, won't have the barrage, doesn't have the same level of threat, and Aspire is able to deal with that, especially with the supercharger in over the top. Revival surge back out of that choke, and they're going to be surging into a lot of molten lava here. Wub goes for the high noon, can't find too much, does the body damage to Tractor Kid, and the primary fire takes him out of it, right into the back. No. The backstab there from Wub onto onto Nolan, and that is going to be it, a hold just before point C.
The McRight click, man. I feel like there's some subtle disrespect here. There's no teabags, there's no question marks after the kill in match chat or anything like that, but the McRight click. You're really going to pull that out against a poor defenseless Mercy? E-girls everywhere are clutching their pearls. Wub in general was doing a ton of work on that last point and on that map in general. You could tell that Yesna knew he had to give him so much respect. And that's even before you consider Aspire and all the work he was doing, or Salty and those super clutch kinetic grasps to just completely nullify, or at least mostly nullify, a lot of barrage damage. So again, Revival looking very strong here, holding before last, holding right at that first choke point before getting into the gallery thing that we won't specify. And now Revival are prepping their attack. It looks like they're coming out with a lot of the same.
I'm just looking at the fact that we've got Lightbringer subbed in here, and no disrespect on Lightbringer at all, because he's very good at what he does, and he seems like a nice guy. But I kind of would have liked the Junkrat here. I think it just has so much more pick potential. I feel like the Torb doesn't bring a lot, particularly around the fact that we were seeing double shield from Revival so much.
Consider this might be a defense-focused pick. They might be putting all their eggs in the defense basket and hoping that the extra zoning provided by the turret lets them maintain their defenses a little more effectively. That said, we'll see.
We're going to be keeping our eyes on those eggs, looking for cracks. The Yezin popping over the top of the building. Classic Clara angle there. Won't find too much. Didn't opt to throw in the conk blast. And Halo's starting to roll its way through here. Again, probably won't see much of a defense until we hit that first corner. Bit of angle control there provided by Yezin. Stops the wraparound as well from Aspire. Oh, beautiful angle. Life comes through. The damage was really done there by Aspire, but the rundown from Salty takes Yezin out of the fight entirely. There's the res bringing Yezin back in, but Revival, they've got the numbers on their side now, and Avoided don't have a lot of room here to get the recontest going. It's going to be down to Tractor Kid.
It's been so telling watching Yezin's playstyle here. You'll see him pop in for just a second, throw a rocket or two at most before retreating. In the game versus Nocturnal, he was flying around all day long. He has to give these hit scan respect, and Revival know that they are zoning him so effectively and preventing so much damage as Hampe gets the kill on the blood.
Found the big pick there. Wolf's been a big part of this lineup so far. Got kill going in his favor. Kid gets the rundown onto Aspire. Gets the... I'm not quite sure how it was Lightbringer's kill, but hey, whatever, momentum adds up, and we're going to see that go the way of Lightbringer for the credit there, but what a play there from Tractor Kid.
I think he got the punch right after Tractor Kid made impact, and technically, blah, 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 rules in Overwatch, he got credit for the kill. That said, pretty flashy coming out from Tractor. I think this is where he needs to really start leveling up. Not to say he's been playing super poorly, but like this is where he could shine. Getting like some great displacement, getting some environmental kills here could really help extend their defense.
Ooh, with an early pick, Lightbringer down, and he almost had that on board, ready to go with the Molten Core. Nanabu's onto Tractor Kid, gets the rundown, knocks people out of the Immortality Loop, which is huge, but so far there's not been anything to really bring that to bear. Tractor Kid gets one with a minefield, but then dies themselves. Revival, they've got the numbers, seeing the recontest come through on the defense. Molten Core finally out from Lightbringer, but there's now less than a meter to go on the payload. Whoop! Gets one, and that is a crazy exchange there. Left whilst getting the high noon kill, but Aspire is still alive and finding value and damage. We will see the Bob taken out of it, but looks like we've got the numbers finally for Revival. They managed to knock them off the point, and we're going to go to point B here for Revival.
Yeah, that bullet from the Deadeye and the Sleep Dart passed each other in midair and said, "Oh, hey, Phil, how you doing?" And then they both just took each other out. Oh my, what even was that?
That was Aspire with just the biggest heads-up play. Coach guns out of the way, and Tractor Kid just goes sailing through. Ah, it's crazy.
Momentum is a funny thing. Ah, physics. You gotta love it. This is... She certainly is, and it's that Mistress has given Revival these first two corners coming through streets on Rialto. And man, we are looking at some interesting fights here as the Supercharger comes out.
Such a good play. Salty just dives right onto the Supercharger and takes it out, robs that 50% damage boost completely away. And now that Moopy's got one of their own, and we've got a Bob as well with such a big sightline here. Down mid, won't stop. Well, in fact, did stop both. Well, stopped Nolan. Yezin is already down. We'll see the Torb on the high ground of Lightbringer, but there's just nobody there to back him up. And Revival are going to be coming into point C with a phenomenal time bank.
Over 4 minutes is insane. We're looking at like Junkertown time banks from our last game here. I hate to harp on it too much, but I don't think the Torb is getting as much value as they would have liked. Flashy long-range headshots aside. And ultimately, I think this double hit scan is just the perfect counter to the kind of composition that Avoided are trying to run. It's really just focus on providing zoning and long-range damage and saying, if you're going to come up at us, we're going to shoot you. But if you're far away, we're also going to shoot you. And that's pretty strong in a shooter.
It is as well. A couple of balls thrown in onto that one, but between Aspen and World Lightbringer, not much long for this world, brought in fact back into the world of darkness. Minimi with the crouch attempting to hide from Whoop, but Whoop knew exactly how to counter that one, and we're seeing him rotate through here, finds the flashbang, deals with Hampe on the Ana, finds the shot onto Nolan here as well. Spots out with the recontester coming in from the left-hand side, sees the turret, has the high noon, falls into the back, waits for the recontest. knows that he can chunk it up completely. There's no contest, and Rival are going to take us to match point 2-0 after Rialto.
Zoning ults, man. For everyone that laughs at him, there's one that gets value. Play of the game here coming out from Yezna, but ultimately I'd have to give that to Wub because his just sheer presence on the map and sheer mechanical ability was really forcing everybody from Avoided to play so much more safely than they were used to. And for a composition that thrives on chaos and really just playing to the wind, as it were, having people keeping you in check that effectively is anathemic to what you want to do.
Kind of an unfortunate situation for Avoided. We were talking before, we were talking in fact during this map that Avoided, they've got for at least half the team a really big task, not just to try and grind their way through the lower bracket up to that redemption spot, but also to do that whilst working at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning for some of these guys. It's a bound to start having an effect here. And I think given that Revival are coming in relatively fresh and in a time zone that significantly favors the majority of their team, even not accounting for the fact that they have some real star potential on their team, it just seems like this is going to be a very difficult potential last map for Avoided.
Agreed. They picked Blizzard World here, and they had a pretty good performance on it last time, so we could see more of that come through. That said, this is another map that would favor double hit scan perfectly well. Last time we talked about Zemrit potentially swapping onto the Widow. This time we could be looking at Aspire on the Widow, more McCree Ash. The options are limitless for a team that's happy to run double hit scan here. So Avoided will really have to try and get as much value as possible out of the displacement from Tractor Kid, some smart angles from Yesna, some strong support from Nolan to really try and subvert that strength, that frankly advantage on paper that a double hit scan composition would afford you on a map like Blizzard World.
I think given what you were saying about the way a large part of their composition works is down to the synergy between Yezen and Tractor Kid and the ability to sort of deal with hit scans by just pouncing on them and getting a couple of rockets in and having Tractor Kid run them down. I think it shows that Revival have really been thinking about how to do this because as well as providing pressure onto a Farah by having that double hit scan presence, the coach gun to rob momentum out of Tractor Kid, the flashbang to rob momentum out of Tractor Kid just completely stops him being able to really capitalize on that. And with Gub and Aspire typically playing fairly close together and not big different angles, it kind of picks apart the tip of the spear, it blunts the tip of the spear from Avoided.
Certainly, because they're always trying to catch people that are out of position, that are by themselves. But this team has clearly done their homework, like you said, and they know perfectly well what Avoided's win conditions are. And when you're playing that closely knit together, you can overcome the advantage that chaos might afford you. Uh, so it's looking like Revival really did their homework. They knew that this is a team you have to prepare for, otherwise you just get lost in the sauce. And so far, you can't say it's not working. They're up 2-0 as we look to get started on Blizzard World.
And kind of unsurprisingly here, looking like Revival coming out the gates with that same door hit scan diva composition, and it's definitely been working for them, so no reason at all to change this. Interestingly, we've also got Lightbringer still in the mix here, so we're going to see the attack torp coming out rather than swapping back over to Aquamarine. Let's see if they can make this work out a little better on Blizzard.
Arissa and Diva going on a little date in front of the Arathi Basin stables. You love to see it. As we pass by the Fargo Deep Mine, and I keep dropping names on things like the flight to Duskwood, I'm very curious to see the attack Torbjorn in action. I wasn't super strong on it last map, and I don't know if it'll do much better here, but I would love to be proven wrong.
Well, they need to make it work here. They need a really good showing on Blizzard World to. They need to complete with time, and then. Well, yeah, I'm not going to explain the mechanics of what they need to do to win the match. They need to win this match. They've got to keep in this. This is match point. If they can't grind out Blizzard World, which is their map pick, second time in a row, then that's it. This is where it ends for Avoided. That was such a good TNT. He isn't almost just kind of blasted his way through that TNT. They know where he is, and they're putting the pressure onto him. We'll see the pick come through onto Lyre. No res available for them, so now a big numbers advantage here because it's going to be a little while before Live comes back. Spy with the equalizer, and he isn't playing Squirrel Farah here on the ground, not up in the sky where the DPS can find him, is starting to find a huge amount of value. Who knew that the way to make this work was just to completely negate a good 50% of what Farah is good for?
Right. I mean, running a double hit scan composition predicates the need for Farah to be in the air where you can see her and shoot her. So, like you said, playing Squirrel Farah, I've never heard that, but I'll roll with it, pretty much negates that because instead of being up in the open air ready to be shot at, you're hiding in cover, but still dealing out tons of damage and applying shield pressure at the same time. So, good on Yezna. I mean, a nice little adaptation there positionally. And this is a really quick first point capture. We have 5 minutes and counting as Revival look to get set up on this Streets Face high ground.
But I like the adaptation we've got here from Aspire as well, coming back in on the Tracer. Knows that Yezna is playing down on the low ground and can go directly up to challenge him. There's the opener pick though. Tactic Kid overstays his welcome up on the high ground, and Aspire is able to focus him down. We lose Lightbringer here as well, who was clearly on a bit of an old Torby flank, drops the turret in the back line. Not going to last too much longer. Aspire with the ducking and the diving and the reset through time with the Tracer. Will eventually escape from Nolan as Tactic Kid finds the pick onto up, and I've got to apologize once again. My feed is slowing down somewhat, so give me a minute to.
It's looking good here to me. So far, I mean, super back and forth here, but the Molten Core comes out and the Barrage. Yesna getting one kill there as Tractor Kid comes through and cleans up. Looking like, oh, that was a weird bomb. Salty might be looking to switch here off of a bomb like that. Ultimately, Revival committed 4 ults in that loss, but Aspire coming through with 2. They're looking to try and clean this up and prevent. Oh, the stick too! Aspire is coming alive here as Aspen and Loopy, excuse me, coming back on the stall heroes, just making sure that Avoided cannot cap that point, and they are forced to retreat, despite starting off that fight pretty well. Now Avoided looking to get things going again as they re-engage or otherwise position themselves here in the Streets phase. Aspire on the Tracer still. Moopy and Aspen pretty low on ultimates. They had to run back, get off the Lucio and the Wrecking Ball into the more bread and butter compositions. Aspire applying pressure on the Lightbringer, but the turret comes out. It's going to force him to back away. Wub with the Deadeye, trying not to use it, just trying to force Yezna down. Using his high ground advantage the best. Avoiding the halt as they fall back down the stairs. They have to make sure they don't C9 this point though, because that would suck. It's C9, nobody wants that. The Deadeye gets no value. Great Bits engaged there using that balloon stand or whatever the heck that is for cover. Liar is asleep. Wub going for the cheeky flank here, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get anything if that turret helps Mini-Me clean up on Moopy. Aspire gets the turret. Nolan gets Salty's mech though, and Handpay getting the kill onto Aspire as Wub tries desperately to make something happen. It's looking like Avoided have the second point, and with 4 minutes left, they're going to start pushing into the third street space. My feed slowed for a second, but we are looking okay. Tractor Kid here on a cheeky flank. Yezna just trying to scout ahead a bit, make sure that they have some room to work with as they get into this third point. And it's looking like we might need to throw to a quick break, you guys. Some minor feed issues, some caster issues, EU technology lull, whatever you want to say. This has been a pretty close match so far as we get back into this fight, but we'll see if these feed issues make us take a quick pause. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with you.
welcome back, everybody. I think I've chased all the spiders out of my computer by now, so hopefully this is going to keep smooth for the rest of the round. We're all back with you and ready to go into, well, it's going to be Revival's attempt at a push here. Avoided managed to complete the map with 1 minute and 3 seconds left in the bank, and I'm afraid you couldn't see it, but there was a particularly good stick there by Aspire onto Hampe towards the back end, but all for naught because Avoided did manage to complete. And again, round of applause for Thibble for carrying the solo cast whilst I was trying to iron out my issues. Hopefully, we won't have to put him through that again.
You do what you gotta do, man. This is tier 2 Overwatch. No one here is a stranger to a little scuff every now and again. But frankly, this is looking like a pretty good Blizzard world so far.
Mm. Well, this is Avoided's choice of map. They clearly have come here because they think they have the strats to make this work. And with the Torbjorn in the mix, you've got to think it's again a more defense-minded setup, and it's their turn on the defense here. If they can grind out just that bit more time off the clock for Revival, we could see them take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was harping kind of at the start. I was like, I don't know about this Torbjorn. We haven't seen a ton of value off of it on Rialto, but it was starting to hit its stride, I think, on Blizzard World. Mostly because they were a little smarter about turret positioning overall, and because Mini-Me gave it a little extra boost with the occasional shield when possible. It forced Wub and Aspire to really allocate more resources to keeping track of it. Otherwise, it would just start adding tons of damage on top to what Aspen and Lyre already had to deal with, which was pretty significant because Yesna was getting some pretty good value. On that last fight, especially as they were trying to push into last, they used it to great effect just to make sure that they couldn't be counter pushed too much, which gave them a lot of re engage potential.
I think the other nice adaptation that we saw here from Avoided is having seen just how big a problem Wub and Aspire were on Rialto, specifically for Yezen, just keeping Yezen down close to the ground, still using the ability that they have to hop over walls and conk blast out of the way, able to find kills, particularly cracking open that point 8 defense, I think it's a very smart move. I don't think it's a move that a lot of players in this situation would go, well, I guess I'm not going to play fast because they're going to snipe.
Yeah, I mean, Farah can be tricky because she's one of those heroes that either does really, really well and super carries and absolutely destroys, or is utterly shut down, like can't even walk out of spawn. Your ranked teammates start yelling at you, "What are you doing? You idiot! You should be playing Genji. I hate you." And then you cry a little bit. It's just getting weirdly personal. It looks like I'm on my own again for just a tiny second, so I won't talk too much about my philosophical rank games or crying. But we are seeing more of the same coming out from Avoided as they set up their defense. Lightbringer looking to set up that turret up on the Griffin's Rest or whatever the heck it was called. I can't remember. But it looks like I have my duo back, so I don't have to care. Well, I might not, actually. We are setting up here.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, bear with us a second. So we're working on some even more scuffed fixes for the issue that every time we think we have fixed, comes and rubs our noses in it again. So that's a big start to the round there. Tractor Kid doing Tractor Kid things, gets the double knockoff. Moopy and Lyre knocked into the ground. We'll see himself taken out in that one as well. But, you know, he's going to be back in pretty quick fashion.
Yeah, I mean, a quick early pick is always in style. But ultimately, it's not super impactful provided you just disengage quickly, especially given how close everyone is to spawn.
Sorry, guys. Occasionally, you will hear the pause from us as we're trying to get these issues lined out for you. Hopefully, once we have done that, the cast becomes that little bit better for you. With a nice roll through by Tractor Kid. As a nice line onto the attacking team. Gets the second roll through, but actually gets stunned out of it. A lot of stuns here for Tractor Kid, but procs the adaptive shields. And able to get himself back out healthy and ready to go again. We lose Whoop here as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would have gotten a lot of value from Tractor Kid if he had been able to get that run through, as you call him. I don't actually know the official name, but the stun actually coming out from Aspen there was super clutch. And now Aspire on the McCree is doing some work.
Okay, it looks like I'm in a position now where I can actually join you properly in this. Yeah, Aspire on the McCree has been such In fact, we have seen Wub on the McCree previously. I was going to say we've seen some really good work out of the Aspire McCree, but we've now seen some good work out of both the Aspire and the Wub McCree. So good work all round on the McCree.
Right. Yeah. I mean, both. What's really great about Revival's DPS line is that they have overlapping pools, but it doesn't hurt either of them in terms of utility and what they can bring out to the team comp. Now, Wub swapping to the Mei, I guess looking to kind of zone out the extra damage from the Torbjorn, or generally help shape the battlefield a little more with some walls. Also forces Tractor Kid to think a little bit about how he's going to engage into that utter demon of a scientist.
Well, you know, the first round through Rialto, they were dealing specifically with Yezen, with the DPS swaps there, and now they're just making sure that Tractor Kid has the worst possible time. We'll see the High Noon out here from Aspire, only finds one, but we'll get Lightbringer. Nolan looking to find the hose down with the Coalescence, can't get it working. We'll see one come through from the barrage, two come through from the barrage from Yezen, but it's cost them 2 ults to do that, and it didn't really cost Revival all that much. They've got quite the big time bank here. Gonna see the self-destruct out from Salty as well. It gets Nolan, but one for a self-destruct is not that great value, Bibble.
It's not, but Revival have enough here in the tank to really still pull this out. The Molten Core coming out, if it wasn't Lightbringer, I would almost wonder if he was going to swap. But I think he just thought he could clutch that out and was proven very wrong by Aspire. This has been going very well for Revival so far. We're at 3.5 minutes and counting on this second point, and it's all Avoided can do to recontest on the thing.
Ooh, that's actually a really good use there of the ice block. It cleared quite a few of the mines there and bought a lot of space for Revival to be able to keep that contest going. We are still seeing frags come through here. Get the kill onto Lightbringer, and that is it. It's just going to be one poor lowly Nolan on the Mercy trying to stall that out, and we've got 4.5 minutes as we roll into point C for Revival.
I mean, I don't think they've had the answer to the Mei. And in general, it adds so much flexibility and insurance to this composition, especially with Salty providing absorption on key abilities with the Matrix, and the ice block negating the effectiveness of the mines. Like, overall, this composition, I mentioned before, like, oh, the composition Revival's running is so well suited to countering Avoided. This might be more so. That said, you can always count on Yesna to get some wacky long-range pick, and Revival are backing up, at least for now.
And of course, Avoided in this next fight are going to have the Nana Boost and the Barrage ready to go. We've seen just how much work that can get done. Revival quite wisely backing around the corners, waiting until they're at full strength to come back in. They've got to be assuming this Barrage is on its way in. Big knock-up. We've got the High Noon! And it finds Yezen. If they can count the body, they get the Mercy here as well. There's no risk coming through. This buys so much space and time and possession here for Revival, and we're going to see them start to push through. Aspire already more than halfway into having another High Noon, and they're just pushing into Spawn. This has the potential to be a catastrophically big time bank here for Revival, because we've got the Blizzard here from Wub. He can just stuff up this recon test. He can chuck it right in. There's nobody to mitigate it. There's nowhere that this can go. Yezen has the barrage ready to go. We've got the Molten Core here as well. The Blizzard is what's going to be the difference maker here. We'll see the Supercharger out as well. And Yezen with that and the barrage as well might have been enough here to secure a hold, at least for now. But there's less than 2 meters of progress required for Revival to round this out with a healthy time back advantage.
Shoutouts to Mini-Me there, who stood unfaltering in that Blizzard, knew exactly how to stagger out his cooldowns, his fortify his shield. He brought in the Supercharger right towards the end of the Blizzard there to give his team the confidence to re-engage, and with the Molten Core providing a little extra zoning to counter the engage off the Blizzard from Revival, they managed that hold. Really strong play there. Now Wub swaps to the Soldier and will look to probably take control of some high ground somewhere and just generally melt down shields and people in equal measure.
We see Aspire holding on to the High Noon for now. We've seen him get a couple of pretty big picks with these in the past. There's going to be Aspen that puts the pedal to the metal. Pops in the rally, buys them a huge amount of protection. And on the other end of the scale, we're going to see the Helix Rocket through the Amplification Matrix. Find a big pick there with Mini-Me now down. And the kills coming in big numbers here for Revival. And only one out of that barrage from Yezen this time. And the payload rolls through. Not quite the time bank we were maybe looking at when we started point C, but still a 40-second advantage.
Score.
Yeah, I mean, to bring it down from 4 minutes to less than 2 is definitely a feather in Avoided's cap. But ultimately, while those last couple fights, I suppose, were pretty scrappy, it wasn't nearly enough to counter out what Revival were trying to do there. Some good mitigation of Wub. They really started to figure out the May pick a little bit towards the end of that map. But I think the shield pressure and the good use of that amplification matrix really helped give Revival the edge in overall damage numbers, and that helped them overcome the spawn advantage that Avoided would otherwise have on that last point.
Let me buy you a drink.
Well,
Hey.
on to our second round through Blizzard World here, and Revival, they're going to be coming out with the Soldier here straight from the get-go. They think that additional pressure onto Yezen might be what makes the difference here. We have seen Yezen find a sneaky way to counteract the hit scan pressure. Maybe the added mobility of the Soldier will start to put paid to those shenanigans too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Soldier is one of those picks that would definitely be in Web's wheelhouse in terms of just getting tons of value. Kind of like Anhu's swap in our last game from Nocturnal. It's one of those where if you can just stay mobile and always have an open line of sight, you're going to get a lot of value off of the Soldier. It's going to be up to Yesna and Nolan to really avoid as much of that damage as possible. Maybe playing a little more Squirrel Farah, as you called it.
I meant to say ground squirrel, if that's any
That
clearer.
actually makes a lot more sense. I was going to say, because squirrels like climb trees and stuff. They're up in the air. But hey, you know...
I've got a lot of words per minute. That's a big pick. When you've got 37 seconds left on the clock, even being able to use up a res, which it looks like they're not going to get a chance to do here. This is massive from Revival. This is a slow picking apart of this offensive push. They could probably get these kills quicker, but they want the slow roll. They want to make sure that there is no time left in the bank here for Avoided, who get one more go at this with no ults in the bank.
It's going to be all Tractor Kid can do to touch the point. I think they're going to have to try really, really hard to get this. There's frankly no guarantee even that they will. Here comes Tractor Kid coming around the point. He does get that last minute contest.
Yeah, it looks like we had both of the stuns there ready to try and get him as he was running through the back alley. That's not going to happen. Amplification Matrix now up from Liar, and that's going to be the first big Lightbringer now down, and all the damage coming through that just knocks them off the point, and that is it now. 1 minute and 40 seconds required for Revival to get a third of a tick, and that is it. They take us right through the series 3-0 and move on in the bracket. So Avoided, they've got to mount a monstrous defense here.
It's winnable, but it's not guaranteed. Revival can't just face roll into the point and take this. They're going to have to be smart. I expect that the Torbjorn will get a little more value here on the defense. Not to say he didn't get too much value on the first attack, but he certainly didn't get much done on the second. He's going to have to try and just stay entrenched and, more importantly, stay alive, because those early picks will do them no favors. Nolan's got one res every 30 seconds, and that's not enough if they start getting staggered out in anything longer than an immediate fight.
And, I wish we could maybe talk about some clever adaptations that Avoided are making, but clever adaptations, not always these guys' plan of attack. They've got their heroes, they like to play them, they're going to try their damnedest to make this work. 1 minute 40-second defense is not impossible. People have held out here for a lot less, so we could be going as far as a draw here. We could go to another match.
Hey.
That's the thing. This could still be a draw, which means that Avoided are still in it. And yeah, it's not a win. You're not up 2-1. It's still 2-0. But at the very least, it gives them some breathing room. And that extra chance might be all they need to remotivate themselves, or, find some inner strength to start bringing this back. This could be the beginning of a reverse sweep. It would just be a little longer than most reverse sweeps we're used to.
Unfortunately, guys, as well as having lost my DLC feed, I've now lost my Discord feed.
So it's looking like Phil is out for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and take over again. Aspire on the McCree gets taken down by Yez with another long-range shot. Salty keeping Lightbringer's turret under fire, but Lightbringer himself has something to say about that. Takes down Web. Yesna holding on to these long-range angles as Revival looks for a quick disengage. Remember, only 1:40 left, and now it's approaching 50 seconds. So they had more time in the bank than Avoided did, but still not a lot of time in total. Nolan and Yesna holding far, far back. They don't want Wub and Aspire to have any effective angles on them, but Aspire swapping to the Ash, much more long-range damage potential, could bring Yesna down as Lightbringer goes very low. Salty advancing with the kinetic grasp, using his shield as effectively as possible as Moopy looks to set up on the point. But Tractor Kid on the Sigma, I didn't even see that, takes down Wub.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because this is 20 seconds left on the clock here, where Revival really have to get something done. They're down in numbers. They're going to be relying on this amplification matrix to start to find a couple of picks. Out comes the barrage. Yezen puts himself in the line of fire. Aspen takes him down. If they can count the body and stop the res, this is going to be a huge advantage here. There's the second pick. Tractor Kid down. Wub's going to find Lightbringer, and this is looking like it might be all over for Avoided on Blizzard World. It was their map pick. The res is going to come through and bring Tractor Kid back in, but in the force of the Bob, we're going to see Tractor Kid run down. One last passing blow from Nolan, and that is it. Revival with a clean 3-0 over Avoided.
I didn't even see Tractor Kid swapping to the Sigma. I know we
Who
should
did?
talk about Revival winning, but goodness me, having a swap come out, that was pure desperation from these guys. That was the equivalent of swapping all stall heroes, basically, is having Tractor Kid get off the Wrecking Ball. Just a clean retake there from Revival.
It's unfortunate, Avoided, they've been. I always enjoy watching Avoided because I think they are individually very talented. They're all quite charismatic and fun to watch. It just when you come up against a team like Revival who have clearly studied the tapes and clearly adapted on the fly to what they know to be working for Avoided, there's only so much you can do when your players aren't going to swap off what they know to be their comfort picks. Regardless, guys, that's going to be the end of the Revival Avoided exchange. We're going to have an interview coming your way very shortly. We're going to throw it to a very short break. And again, one more time, we're keeping an eye on this. We're aware that you're not using these breaks to donate. So exclamation mark, donate in the chat. Again, giving to a tremendously good cause in the Pank One Pancreatic Cancer Research Charity, and also to the prize pool of the guys that are playing today. But anyway, here comes a break. We'll see you after it. Back, everybody. After the break, we're here with you, and we've got Aspen of Revival ready to talk us through her team's win over Avoided. So, Aspen, welcome. Big fan.
Hello. Thank you.
So, obviously, you've just managed a 3-0 over Avoided, who are maybe one of the trickier teams to play against, given the way
Ooh.
they deal with their opponents. Have you done any specific prep to deal with Avoided?
Well, we knew that they obviously are called avoided because they play the oddest characters. They play weird comps, and we knew that we could pick characters to easily counter their, their ball, their Pharah, and we already have good hit scan players. So that was kind of our strat. We didn't really want to overthink it too much because we know if we just play as a team that we can pull some things off pretty well.
So it kind of looked almost like the McCree Soldier and the McCree Ash adaptations kind of happened on the fly, but you're saying actually this was all like fully planned out and ready to go ahead of time.
Actually, we didn't plan the McCree Ash. We were thinking more towards Echo in the beginning, but it was kind of on the fly. Like some of the swaps, we just wanted to see what felt good, and that's how we were gonna change. And obviously, I was just gonna stay on break the entire time.
Congratulations on landing yourself in Brig Jail.
Thank you. It's fun.
Hey, at least it's not Wub this time. Poor guy.
True, poor Wub.
True.
So looking forward now, you guys are playing Scion Esports next in the lower bracket finals. You've played them before, fairly recently. What are your
Yeah.
guys' plans to try and bring out the W against a team like that?
I mean, we're just gonna play our own game. We're gonna do our best, keep up the momentum we already have with our 2-3-0s. We're just gonna do our best against them and pull out another W.
Right on.
That's good.
Uh,
High level strats. Pull out the W. I like it.
Yeah.
right, yeah, we talked about that. Just score more points than them and keep them from scoring more points than you.
It's an
That's the
easy
strat.
clap.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it comes down to. Well, Aspen, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you get back to celebrating with your team and preparing for the next game. Before you leave us, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Shout out to Vite Ramen. They be
Let's
feeding us
go.
ramen. They be feeding us a lot. So shout out to them. Thank you. And also, Vite Ramen provide us with some new jerseys. So shout
Ooh,
out.
right on.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, again, thank you very much, Aspen. And
Thank you.
guys watching back there, unfortunately, that's all you've got from myself and Thibodeau. Thank you for staying with us. But we've got 2 more games coming your way, and they're going to be brought to you by Rising Stars, Bullskunk, and Chef Billy. And they're going to be coming your way after a little break. So don't go too far because I guarantee these are going to be matches to watch.